alias the Hairy Harper. I was recently asked to lay on a workshop for Chromatic auto harpers, and rather than hand out acres of chord sheets, I designed this little gadget, the cardboard ChordComputer, which carries all the information, but it's small enough to slip into a compact disc envelope and carry round in your instrument case. I was rather surprised at how popular it turned out. I had so many requests for a spare one to take home for my friend that I handed out about 3 times as many as there were people at the workshop. So I thought I ought to make it available to anybody who would like one. And if you would care to drop me an email, hairyharper@gmail.com, I will send you the pattern which you can cut out and assemble, and you can have your very own cardboard ChordComputer. So then, what does this thing do? Well, from a mechanical point of view, not a lot. It's just one large disc sandwiched between 2 smaller ones in such a way that it can spin round. But what's marked on it is the interesting bit. Round the outside we have a scale which corresponds to 1 octave of a keyboard, 7 white notes, 5 black ones, and it's wrapped round in a circle so that you can't fall off the end of it. The smaller disc on this side has the same scale marked on it, and we can use this to transpose a tune from any key into any other key. If you find you can't sing it in the key you were given it, you might be squeaking on the high notes or grunting on the low notes. So you can choose a suitable key. Suppose you were given it in C and you feel more comfortable singing it in G. Simply rotate the scale so that C becomes G, and then you find that F becomes C, G becomes D, and so on for any other chords which might enter into it. Okay, on the other side, the inner scale is marked in Roman numerals from 1 to 7. Now, you may occasionally be given an arrangement which is not written out in any absolute key. It's given as, the chords are given as it might be 1, 4, 5 and so on. So that by setting the 1, that's the key note, opposite whatever key you want to sing the thing in, you can again read off the chords that you need, 1, 4, 5 and so on. The other thing it does on this side with the coloured bits is tell you exactly which notes appear in any 7th major or minor chord. This comes in handy if you decide to repad a chord bar, for instance. A lot of auto harpers, if you buy a factory made chromatic instrument, will have an A flat major, which is a horrible chord because it's got no bass notes at all and it sounds very thin and weedy. But what you don't get from the factory is a B minor, which is quite useful if you're playing in G or D. So, suppose we decide to ditch the A flat major and put a B minor on instead. What we do is to set this big red arrow in the middle to point to B. So we've now dialed up chords based on the note B. It's marked with 7th major and minor. The green sectors denote the notes in a minor chord. So in B minor we have the notes B, there, D, and F sharp or G flat. It's usually written as F sharp if you're talking about B minor. So we've put this nice new virgin strip of felt on the chord bar. We now need to cut notches on it over any strings which are tuned to B, D or F sharp. So that's another thing you can do with this. But where it really comes into its own is if you're having trouble arranging a melody. The thing about an auto harp is that you physically cannot pick a melody note unless it's contained in the chord which you have selected by pressing a button. If it isn't in that chord, you cannot have it. You will just get a tick instead of a ping. So at some point during a melody you may find that you've selected a chord just because it contains the melody note which you want, but it doesn't sound right. So this is the real power of this device. I'm going to assume, for the sake of argument, that the note causing a problem is, as it might be, a D, which I've dialed up here by pointing the red arrow at it. I'll just mark it with a little paper clip so you can keep track of where it's going. We can begin by noticing from these three coloured sectors that a D note is available in a D7th chord, a D major chord and a D minor chord. So those are three choices, and you didn't need me to tell you that really, did you? But what happens when we start moving the D round the circle? Well, the next thing that happens is that it comes opposite a green sector here, which means that there is a minor chord which contains a D, and the red arrow in the middle shows us that it's B minor. So we can make a note of that one. We've now got four chords which contain a D. If we move it a little further, we find that it's opposite these blue and yellow sectors, which means that there is a 7th chord somewhere and a major chord which contain the D note, and the red arrow tells us that it's B flat 7th or B flat major. Okay, so we now have 6 chords we could try. Carrying on round the circle, it next meets up with all three colours again, which means that there is another 7th, another major and another minor, which we could try. The red arrow tells us that those chords are G 7th, G major and G minor. We now have 9 chords, assuming of course that the B flat minor, the B minor is available to you. It doesn't tend to come on factory made harps, but it's the first modification that most players make. Anyway, okay, we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 chords so far. We go a little bit further and there's a blue sector. So the 10th chord is a 7th chord. The arrow says it's E7th. So that's a choice of 10 chords, all of which contain the note D. And one of them will probably be an improvement on what you were doing to begin with. Try them all, see which one you like. And considering what a great instrument the auto harp is for tinkering with, you only have 3 types of chord marked on here, but I've left the backside blank so that if you've put any of your particular favourite chords on your particular instrument that don't appear on the front of the thing, there are 3 lots of sectors in which you can fill in the ones that I haven't filled in. So this will dial up a choice of 10 chords, some of which you may not have, that's fair enough, on the front, so any note of the octave, and however many you fill in on the back. It'll be a total of more chords than you've got on your instrument. I mean, there are 36 just on this side. But it will highlight all the possible choices you've got for that problem note in your melody. And that's how it works.